Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Albums. It's Sunday. It's Sunday morning here in the States on the East Coast, and I've got my fellow East Coaster from Pennsylvania, from the Hudson Valley Squares and the Monsters Den, Mr. Craig Kaminski. What's
Good
happening?
morning. Good
Morning.
morning, and how are you? How's everyone out there? It's a chilly morning here in Pennsylvania with some residual snow, but we're getting through it. So,
Yeah, same here in New York. It's not much different. I think Craig and I were just talking. You got a little bit more snow than we did, but snow is snow. So it's chilly. I think it's below 20 right now. I was just
yeah,
outside a few minutes ago and it's 18 or 19 degrees here in the Hudson Valley. It's pretty
that,
chilly.
yeah, that's about what it is here. It's not pleasant. I'd rather be inside talking about this great band Nebula with you.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So this is a band that was new to me until prompted by Craig to check out, seeing as how much I've enjoyed the Fu Manchu catalog. And Nebula is basically an offshoot from Fu Manchu. And Craig just corrected me all week long. I've been saying two guys from Fu Manchu, but actually the initial lineup of this band was actually three. Even though Mark Abshar, the bass player, was only in Fu Manchu kind of briefly at the very beginning, but still former Fu Manchu is a former Fu Manchu, right? So we got Eddie Glass on guitars and vocals and Ruben Romano on drums. That lineup has changed and morphed many, many times over the years. We got Michael Amster has been on drums. Ranch Cerrone, I think, has been doing bass with them live, but they've had a lot of changes in drums and bass over the years, with Eddie Glass really being the only constant in the band from start till finish. And I guess well, here's what we're gonna do. And I've already announced this. They've got 7 full-length studio albums. Then they've got the debut EP, but the EP is over 30 minutes long. So Craig was like, we should just throw that in there because it's basically a full album, right? And I totally agree because it's a really good one as well. So we're gonna do 8 albums. And we're going to rank them in the order of our preference. And from the first EP up until the most recent album, which came out in 2022. I mean, they had almost a decade of not releasing anything, but otherwise have been pretty
Indeed.
consistent with releasing stuff other than that gap in the middle.
Yeah.
So, and some really good albums here, as we're going to talk about. So, Craig, you want to kind of give everybody a little taste of what this music is all about before we start the ranking?
Yeah, it's I mean, for people who like Fu Manchu's blend of stoner rock. This is that, but Nebula has a more psychedelic sound to with some of their music, especially in more recent years. They also only have one guitar player. Fu Manchu has two, so it's a true power trio. Occasionally, in some of their songs, they might have some effects or a little bit of keyboards, but nothing drastic. Eddie Glass is the vocalist and guitarist, and his vocal style, I like to think of it almost like a slacker. That's like maybe like they're not great, but they do fit the the overall feeling of the songs. He's not going to be mistaken for a classically trained singer who hits high notes and everything like that.
It's
But
kind
it
of a similar
works.
formula to Fu Manchu. I mean, you can really
Yeah,
say the same thing about them as well. The vocals aren't outstanding, but they totally fit the music.
they
And
work within
yeah,
the context of the music. And I'll just quick say my first exposure to Nebula was I think kind of like by accident. I'm pretty sure that I read a review for their one album for their second album called To the Center in I'm almost positive it was the WWF magazine, because they used to have music reviews in the back, and someone brought it in to where I was working at the time. This was like in 99 or so when the album came out. And I read this review and it mentioned that this band had ex Fu Manchu members in it. And I thought, well, I like Fu Manchu. Maybe I should check this out. And I was able to find a copy of To the Center along with another album that I'll show later at a local Tower Records. So I've been a fan since about 99 or so of Nebula. And I will say that even though they, they and Fu Manchu were coincided with each other with their albums, I do generally like Fu Manchu better. But there's a gap from maybe 2003 to 2008 or so where I prefer the Nebula albums of their output over the Fu Manchu members. Just my personal opinion. But
Yeah, I mean, we could probably at the end talk a little bit about the kind of connection of the two bands and kind of how we compare them because I think that Fu Manchu overall, there's more albums for one, but I think that their career overall is a little more consistent. But I think if you like, there's a formula to Fu Manchu that they don't really deviate much from, and I know that might bother some people. I think for those folks who like Fu Manchu but wish they mixed it up a little bit more, this might be the catalog for you, I think, because
yeah,
there's lots of variety in these albums. And, a lot of it really works for me. A little bit of it doesn't, but we'll get to that, I think. But I think that this is definitely the more because they've got that psychedelic and space rock element going on, they're
yeah,
different enough, even though you'll hear lots of similarities. Like
yeah.
on the more straightforward kind of heavy stoner riffing type stuff. Yeah, it's very similar to Fu Manchu, but then they go off into these other places and other planets and stuff, which Fu Manchu
Yeah.
never even bothers with. So
Yeah, Fu Manchu lyrically has their, you know, surfing and fast cars and hot chicks and things like that. Nebula really doesn't do that. Maybe
yeah,
a few songs here and there. They're a little bit deeper, dare I say,
yeah,
with their output.
yeah, for sure. So we're going to start off number 8 and work our way back. Why don't we do two at a time, Craig?
Two.
So
Yeah.
you do 8 and 7, I guess.
Yeah, so these the first two, and it's in my ranking of these. Again, this is personal preference. So um, immediately when I say these two, I'm thinking someday I'm going to get a knock on my door, and it's Karen LaPreziosa. Oh, hi, Karen. How are you? How's it going? And she's just going to go boom and punch me right in the face because of what I'm ranking as my bottom two. And so my bottom two, I can just put them together, are the last two Nebula albums. First of which is called Holy Shit. Great title, great cover. And Nebula is also one of those bands that does not have a consistent logo. Every album is different. Although I don't have a physical copy of their most recent album, Transmission from Mothership Earth. That's a great logo, and if they
Yeah.
keep that going forward, that's totally fine with me. I group these two together because these are the two albums that came out after a 10-year gap that Pete had mentioned earlier. And again, this is just now Eddie Glass as the sole remaining original member. These two albums taken together are way more psychedelic and trippy and weird than anything they have on their prior albums. So if you as a listener have that more of your preference, you'll probably rank these a little bit higher than what I have. I prefer more stoner and doom sound and crunchy riffs, which there's plenty of them. These they don't keep my attention as much, and they're not as tuneful, in my opinion. I mean, Holy Shit has some good the very first track, Man's Best Friend, really good, is a great kickoff track. But then right away the second track, Messiah, is kind of sludgy and just not as tuneful. Let's Get Lost is a really cool song, but then and so is Witching Hour on that album. But then there's just some strange weird songs which just kind of go out into left field. The same is the case for Transmission from Mothership Earth, where the opening track, High Wired, I really enjoy, and the title track, Transmission from Mothership Earth, pretty good. And I got so high, which is one of Karen's favorite songs that she had mentioned to me before. Pretty good song, but then there's just some weird ones like Wilted Flowers and Melt Your Head, which really sounds like it is melting your head. That just don't They're just weird and not as tuneful, in my opinion. But if you like more of the spacey rock sound, these might be rank a little bit higher for you. But for me, they're two of my least favorite. I don't dislike them, they're just my least favorite.
Gotcha. I mean, we're on the same page here, and I think Both of these are good albums, and I think for those who like the more psychedelic albums of Monster Magnet and certainly Hawkwind, will really dig these. These are very different from the other albums. So I'm going to go with number 8, Transmission from Mother Earth from 2022, seventh and most recent album. And yeah, I mean, you take like those first two or three Monster Magnet albums and classic Hawkwind, crank them together with maybe a dose of Sabbath here and there. That's kind of what you get here. You mentioned High Wired, pretty cool song, kind of plotting, very trippy. Wilted Flowers, really weird. Melt Your Head, I kind of dig. It's kind of Hawkwindy. Warzone Speedwolf is a really cool track. You have I Got So High. Existential Blues is like trippy blues rock, sort of. The Four Horsemen, I don't dig that all that much. The production is really interesting.
Mhm.
There's not as much use of fuzz on the guitars, but instead there's all these effects going on. There's some synthesizers. On the last couple albums, they do a pretty good job of like blending the acoustic guitars underneath the fuzzy electric guitars. I think it's good. It's just a weird album, but I like it. I definitely like it. I just don't like it as much as the others. And then number 7, I'm also going to go with Holy Shit, the sixth album from 2019. Here you got band produces the album, and this was produced by the band as well. Matt Lynch worked with them on this one as well. You got Mike Amster is on drums on here. You mentioned Man's Best Friend. That's a really good song. Good heavy opener. They have a lot of really good openers, this band.
Yeah,
Messiah, Spacey, still kind of heavy. It's All Over is great. Witching Hour is really great. I don't like Fistful of Pills at all. Tomorrow Never Comes. That's kind of 7 minutes of kind
7 minutes.
of weird psychedelic grinding stoner rock with a little bit of
Yep.
doom. Really good track. Is it a little too long? Perhaps. Gates of Eden, not very memorable. Let's Get Lost is pretty raging and kind of up tempo. I dig that. And Cry the Tortured World has its moments, but it kind of meanders a little bit. So
Yeah,
this is an uneven album, but I think I like more of the highlight tracks on here than I do on this one.
yeah,
So I think for that, that's why I put this over that one. But they're both really good, so you really can't go wrong with them. If you like the more psychedelic elements and
yeah,
space rock
definitely.
elements of stoner rock, I think these might actually be more of your preference for those who like that sort of thing a little bit more. But really good, really good.
Yeah. They had put out this live album here called Live in the Mojave Desert for the Holy Shit album, and so there's a handful of songs on this that they do Man's Best Friend, and they actually do High Wire on this, which hadn't been released yet, and they do Let's Get Lost and Messiah, but it's again strange sounding, not as rocking, dare I say, as
Well,
some of
most of
the
those
other.
live albums from these type of bands where they do these out in the desert recordings, and there's lots
Yeah,
of and those are kind of meant to be that way. They're meant to be
yeah.
big long jams and psychedelic
Really,
freakouts.
it's really kind of strange sounding. I think it was recorded during COVID, so there's no crowd.
Oh wow.
And you're in the middle of the desert, so they do some weird sound effects with no crowd in there. It's a little bit out there,
I think
but
we can
it's still
thank
fun.
Pink Floyd, the Live at Pompeii movie, for all of these live in the desert recordings that we've seen from the Stoner Rock camp in recent years.
Yeah.
Cool concept though.
Well, but my next two, so this is what,
6 and 5. Yep.
6 and 5. I'm sorry. My next one, I went with Heavy Psych. This was from 2008, and but and I will say I'm not going just in random or from
Order
most
release.
recent up to now. It's just this is how I have these ranked. Really good album though. Everything that I have from here on in, I really, really quite enjoy. The song Aphrodite on this. Wow, I love that guitar tone that he uses on that. It's kind of a bluesy track, which is not necessarily one of my favorite things to listen to, but wow, really good song. And here there's some trippy songs, but they're done really well and more tuneful. And particularly that's In the Depths and the others, and another song called The Other Side,
Yeah.
which are super well done. They are kind of psychedelic, but way more tuneful and have beats and riffs and solos that keep your interest. So really enjoy this album. funny thing about this, I bought this directly from the band at the time, or when this came out. And when it came out, the last two songs weren't there. So this ended, and they weren't even written in here. So the Crown of Thorns was the last song. Then it actually comes out, and I look, and it's like, God damn it, there's two extra songs on this. So I had to order this twice. I had to buy this album twice. The last two songs are actually quite good, Lead Sky and Little Yellow Pill. So those are made me have to go buy this damn album twice. But it is
Which
worth.
which label is yours on?
Mine is on TP.
Okay, that's what I have. Yeah, the TP one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I know
but
a good chunk of their catalog has been reissued on Heavy Psych Sounds in recent years, and
yeah,
they always do a great job on the packaging and
yeah,
whatnot.
mine are original ones that you'll see. Yes,
There's the band right there, and Eddie is an SG man, is a Gibson SG man as
yeah.
far as I know throughout his career.
But great album, and this one serves the band well, and it was the last before they took a 10-year hiatus,
Yeah.
which was, and at the time it was, I didn't know where the band went. It's like there was no announcement that they broke up. They just stopped putting out albums, which as a fan I was disappointed in. But my next one, I have the debut called "Let It Burn," and great debut. And the reason this was an EP at the time, because this is on Relapse Records, my version, because the last two songs, Sonic Titan and Devil's Liquid, were not included when this was released the first time as an EP. Those songs combined are about 12 minutes. So if you take that off, yeah, it's an EP. But when you add those songs back into it, it puts it up to about 35 minutes. So this becomes definitely a full length album. But I really a big fan of this one, and they got their sound pretty much what they wanted to do. I think at least right away. The opening track, Elevation, is really cool and good rocker. Down the Highway is a great track too. That's the song they opened with the one time that I saw them live. They opened with Down the Highway. The title track, Let It Burn, is a cool, groovy, definitely you can almost like see the smoke rising while you're listening to it. Yeah, that's what the song's about. Let it burn. It's a good one. Vulcan Bomber. All the songs are really good. There's even a weird trippy song called Raga and the Bloodshot Pyramid, which is kind of a jangly acoustic trippy type song, but it works. It works for me, and I enjoy that. Really good opening volley for Nebula, and when you listen to this, it sets the plate for what they were about to do for the next 10 years. So yep, that's mine. Number 6, Let It Burn.
Cool. All right, my number 6. So here on in was kind of tough because I think there to me there's, like you mentioned, there's a divide between these two and everything else. These are really good, but all this other stuff is really enjoyable. So I had a hard time, like, where does these albums go, because most of them are pretty great, pretty evenly, I think, and just and as far as how strong they are, and it was hard to rank these. But I also did Heavy Psych, their fifth album, number 6. Everything you said, really good, produced by the band. Rob Oswald is on drums on this one. Got like a revolving cast of musicians here for a while. I really like Pulse, the opener. I think is really good. The Dagger. I mean, some of these songs, not just on this album, but on a lot of their catalog, just massive groove. You got these
Yeah.
big, fuzzy, juicy, kick-ass riffs, and then the bottom end is just so enormous. I love that. I also love Aphrodite.
Hmm.
I wish they did more slow, kind of
Yeah.
grinding, fuzzy tunes like this, because I know a lot of their catalog is very up tempo, but when they do the kind of the little more laid back and just in the pocket Sabbathy groove stuff,
Yeah.
so good, so good. And then he throws in that screaming lead guitar. I mean, this guy's a really good player, really
Hmm.
good player. Um, Dream Submarine, that meanders a little bit. In the Depths kind of does too, but I like the vocals are really good on that. But I love the other side. I love Crown of Thorns. Um, Lead Sky is really good. I don't really like Little Yellow Pill all that much, but I think this is the stuff that's really good on this is really good. There's a couple
Yeah,
tracks that don't work for me all that well, but I think it's still a very, very solid record from them. And that's my number six. And now it gets kind of tough. Like, how do we
yeah,
put some of these? I went with, and this could be higher, from 2006, fourth album, Apollo. Love that. Love the artwork on this.
yeah,
Very, very cool stuff. There's the guys in the band jamming out. Produced by Daniel Ray, who
yeah.
worked with the Ramones. I mean, it's just like,
And the Misfits, I think, too. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, this is a, these guys have worked with some cool producers, and now they just produce themselves. But this is the last to feature the founding drummer Ruben Romano. You got Tom Davies now on bass. Loose Cannon, killer track. Plenty of cool riffs, a lot of wicked guitar solos. Fever Fray is catchy. Lightbringer also, these are pretty catchy songs. They're heavy, they're rocking. Future Days, weird. They at times like
yeah,
throw in sitar, right? So you got these big heavy riffs and then these breaks with sitar. As
yeah,
everybody knows, I'm kind of hit or miss with sitar. I like it in small doses. Thankfully, it's small doses here, which I can appreciate. That's a good track. Ghost Rider's energetic. Then you got another mid-pace crusher called The Alchemist. The Eagle Has Landed is a good one. Controlled is really good. That's more of a straightforward type rocker. They do some straightforward stuff that's good too. Fruit of My Soul is really good.
yeah.
Holy groovalicious on that, man. Really, really good. I don't really care much for Decadent Garden. Wired is killer. It's like a just under a minute long instrumental.
It's kind of like it's like, here's a riff, and it's like 45 seconds of that. And it's like, oh man, you couldn't build a song
Right.
off
I
of
wanted a whole
that.
song of that. That's
Yeah.
terrific. That's like it ends and you're like, no, keep coming back. I want more of that. I want more of that. Then you got the whole opiate float, whatever, which is kind of dreamy psychedelic. I think that's kind of like a taste of what was to come a lot
Mhm.
more on the later albums. But overall, I think it's a really good album.
Yeah.
Like I said, a couple tracks don't really do much for me, but the rest of it is just killer. And you get 14 songs on here,
Yeah.
or 13 if you don't want to count the little brief instrumental, but still really, really strong stuff. So that's my six and five.
Yeah, my number four, We Are Simpatico, is Apollo. Great album, and again, different logo on this, and
Yeah,
cool use of the space graphics and everything. Everything you just said, 100% agree with. The songs that I are not my favorites are the exact ones you said: Future Days and Decadent Garden. Everything else I'm pretty much fine with, and really got some cool riffs on this. Ghost Ride is one of my favorites. I like that a lot. Loose Cannon, I like the particularly like the drumming on that. That's really cool. I do like Opiate Float at the end, that it is sort of a dreamy,
yeah,
cool type song, but again, trippy and psychedelic, but still tuneful, and uh, doesn't meander or get, go driving out onto left field and everything. Also cool that this album starts and begins the exact same way with a track called Orbit, which has like it's like a little instrumental intro, and then the exact same thing bookends the album,
yeah.
which is really cool. So yeah, my number four is Apollo. These last three, oh, this I switched my rankings of these a lot. These were tough. So even though it pains me, I really enjoy all three of these albums. Number three, I went with To the Center. Uh, to the Center, the opening track, the title track, crushes, and it is what I love about it is that it starts like this like it starts almost like a ballad, and then where you're kind of like lulled into almost sleepiness, kind of, and then all of a sudden there's like a two snare da da, and it just cranks in, taking off to the center of the universe. I mean, it's a great opening song. Come Down and What You're Looking For. Oh, love the riffs on those. And the last two songs on this album, oh, I love them. Between Time and You Mean Nothing are just such a crushing, groovy way to end this album. They even have a cover here of "I Need Somebody" by the Stooges on here, which is done pretty well.
Yeah,
Love this album, and again, this was the first Nebula album that I purchased, and totally taking a chance because I had no idea what the vocals of Eddie Glass sounded like at the time, but. Really, really cool album. One track on here that I don't care for. I believe it's "Synthetic Dream," but 1 out of 12, not bad. But the rest, just great, crushing, groovy, psychedelic riffs that really hold your interest. And I think, and again, as a new listener, reeled me in and said I want to check out more of this band. Forward and in reverse, and see what they're up to. So, To the Center is my number three.
cool. I want to grab something real quick because I have a feeling that this band uses this, and I had to go out and get myself one because I just love his guitar sound. I'm assuming that Eddie uses a Big Muff fuzz pedal because that's what it sounds like. A Big Muff is very popular with a lot of stoner rock bands and guitar players.
Okay.
Even bass players use it as well. And I did a little kind of research that of what this pedal can make your guitar sound like, and to me it sounds like Eddie's using one. So I just got this. I've only used it once. I just bought it recently. It's like I
Oh,
bought it
okay.
used for like $50, and it's going to be a nice addition to my pedal board, and it's very
Ah,
different
cool.
from like other fuzz boxes that I have used before, and it gives you that sound. And
Okay.
so yeah, it's a happy arsenal that I've added to my collection there. Anyway, let's get on
Cool.
to my number four is Atomic Ritual, Killer, third full length album. Chris Goss of Masters of Reality produces here. He also produced Caius and Queens of the Stone Age. So again, working with a guy, they didn't like stick with one producer from album to album to album. They kind of experimented quite a bit. And you got Simon Moon joins on bass. Title track, killer, absolutely
Hmm.
killer. So It Goes and Carpe Diem are both really solid, straightforward rockers. Love them. You got a track called More, which has plenty of groove, nice big riffs. The Beast is kind of moody and psychedelic, mid-paced, which is kind of nice. Out of Your Head, you mentioned the Stooges before. They do a cover on the album you just talked about. Well, Out of Your Head sounds like an early Stooges song, like circa like the first album. It's got all those screaming wah wah guitars, and it's kind of just raucous and just excellent, excellent. Um, how about The Way to Venus?
Yeah.
Great, big, huge riffs and organ. Craig mentioned earlier that they use keyboards, but sporadically. You'll hear a little
Yeah.
synthesizer, you'll hear a little organ here and there. Well, this is a great way to use an organ. And I'm hearing this and I'm thinking Stoner Rock meets Deep Purple, and it's just like awesome, awesome stuff. Paradise Engineers, a really cool track, and you got swirling fuzz guitars, acoustic guitars. Spacey effects, electric synapse. That's more of like kind of like a straight stoner kind of punk track. That's okay. It's not one of my favorites on here. But then Strange Human,
Hmm.
uh, cranks up the fuzz to like 12. Screaming lead guitars with wah wah. I mean, I'm like a sucker for that kind of stuff. And then you got Finn, which finishes it all off, which is like 9 minutes long, and it's got this spaciness, and then these just crushing riffs come in, and these like psychedelic freakouts and stuff. And I think the fuzz tone, probably thanks to this on Eddie's guitar, is just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really strong album. Could have ranked higher. This is one of their best, folks. For all of you watching, don't sleep on this album because one of their good ones. That's from 2003. So back to you. Well,
What was
actually,
that?
hold on, I got one more, right? Yeah, okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
nope. Oh,
Getting
did
too excited here. All right, number three, I forgot. I'm gonna go with the debut EP, Let It Burn. I really like this a lot.
yeah.
Really like this a lot. To me, this is the album I think that's the most similar to the Fu Manchu Blueprint, and that's probably
Hmm.
why I dig it so much because it's got that very similar feel, but with that little bit of psychedelia going on. You mentioned Elevation, awesome. Down the Highway, totally awesome. I love Let It Burn. That's got just good heft, lots of groove to it. Vulcan Bomber, Dragon Eye. I mean, the only song I don't really like all that much is Raga and the Bloodshot Pyramid.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's got a little too much of that drony sitar thing for me,
It's weird.
but man, Sonic Titan,
Yeah.
so good, so good. Um, And I think Devil's Liquid is a complete ass kicker. You know what? I think folks who like classic Jimi Hendrix Experience stuff, that kind of power trio, very psychedelic stuff from the late 60s, probably would really like this album. Because I think this album is little bit different than some of the other records, and this is a very much a guitar-driven record, and it's a really, really good one. So, yeah, that's my number
Is
three.
yours on, what record label's yours on?
Relapse also.
Oh, okay,
You probably
okay,
have the exact same one you do.
okay. I bought this at that concert, that Metal Meltdown in Asbury Park, the one that we've all talked about on Hudson Valley Squares, where Manowar was the headliner. They actually had a whole bunch of CD show. They had a whole CD show during the 2 day festival,
That's
and
cool.
I was able to find this copy of Let It Burn there. So I always remember buying it at a concert, even though Nebula did not perform there. But
Fine.
my number two, everything that you said, I go with Atomic Ritual. I love this album. This I saw them do this tour in uh, Starland Ballroom in Sayreville, and this was in 2004, I guess it was. The bill was Clutch on their Blast Tyrant tour,
Oh,
then Nebula, and then an unknown band at the time called Mastodon was the third band, and so
that is
Mastodon
intense, Bill.
would go on to, of course, lots of greater things, but Nebula, it was the middle band. During the show, I went up to buy a T-shirt. I used to have a T-shirt that looked was just this album cover here of Atomic Ritual. Ruben Romano, the drummer, was working merch. So I went up. So I said to him, I said how much of a fan I was. I loved the album and everything. And I asked him. I said, so who's playing bass? Because there's uh, a hidden track on here called Atomic Ritual Revisited, which is the title track re-recorded, but with a gentleman named Dennis Wilson on bass. And I prefer the re-recorded version. That's the hidden track after Finn on this. It's just the bass is thunderous on it. I asked Ruben, I said, "Oh, is Dennis going to be playing bass with you?" No, it's some other guy playing. It wasn't Tom Davies either. It was a different guy. So the revolving door had started there with some of their band members.
I
But
even
yeah,
saw too Isaiah Mitchell, who's the lead
yes,
guitarist and a great
he
one from Earthless, played bass with them for a while.
that was the guy's name. I didn't know his last name, but he said no, Isaiah something is
So he
was the
filled in
bass
for that
player
tour. Wow.
that night or that tour or what have you before Tom Davies joined. But yeah, but the hidden track on this, which is again just the title track, Atomic Ritual, but re-recorded with a different bass player, is thunderous. It sounds actually a little bit different than track one on this, and I actually prefer that. But yeah, they played that night. They played "So It Goes." I believe they played "More" and "The Way to Venus." They did towards the end, but great album. And I yeah, really enjoy this, and very accessible too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's stoner rock, and it is heavy, that we're saying, and it has the riffs, but it is accessible too. It's not uh, really weird and out there or anything for casual fans even to latch onto and enjoy. So that was my number two. My number one, I went with 2000's Charged, and what a great album! And this makes use of some. He uses acoustic guitar in some of these songs as like a almost like in the background to the electric guitar, and it works so well. It sounds really cool in songs like Traveling Man Blues and this one, which is a almost ballad, but it's just such a cool song. It's like it's hard to describe, but it's just really a fun, maybe kind of different for them, but I just love the way that sounds. But the crunchers on this, the opener, "Do It Now," and track three, "Giant," are just Wow. You get I mean, Giant has like a simple riff. I mean, it's just, but just such a cool rocker from them. Every song on this is actually quite good. The final song, called All the Way, is about 8 or 9 minutes long, and but it's a slow grinder of a track, similar to things that Fu Manchu was doing around the time with tracks like Saturn III, but more trippy sounding with the guitars, and of course with Eddie Glass's trademark vocals. But and again, a very accessible album from 2000 from the guys. If you want to care to follow what Pete and I are saying with these and check these out, I think again, people would really enjoy these last. Well, I mean, with everything, but my number one, Charged, is just a great timeless kind of album. This is from 2000. I mean, it's almost 25 years old. But this, if you would tell somebody this is something that came out recently, I don't think they would say, "Oh, really? Oh, no, this sounds old." Really good album. Charged, my number one.
My number two is To the Center, debut full length, produced by Jack Endino, right? Of course, worked with some of the Seattle greats like Soundgarden, Nirvana, and Mudhoney. Everything you said, opening track, title track, is just pure power trio, psychedelia, great riffs, screaming guitar solos. That's what you want. Come down, upbeat, catchy. What you looking for? Also really catchy. Clear Life, Freedom. I mean, you mentioned all the great songs on here. I Need Somebody is very cool and fun cover of the Stooges classic. Antigone is great. Um, what's really good on here too is Between Time, which is a
Ah,
cover of a Randy Holden song. Ah, so good. I remember like the first time when I first got this, I'm like, wait a second, I know that song. And I'm like,
oh,
holy
that's a
shit.
cover.
Yeah, that's a cover. That's Randy Holden, who used to be in Blue Cheer. Yep.
Ah,
Yeah.
geez. Mind blown. Never knew
Yep. Yep.
that.
And yeah, You Mean Nothing.
Oh,
Maybe the heaviest song on the album. It reminds me of like classic Blue Cheer meets Sabbath. So good. Yeah, this is a classic. And then of course I'm gonna match you with my number one, which is Charged, from 2001. Yeah, this is really good. Really good. Do It Now, straightforward and pummeling. Love the Killer Fuzz and the Groove of Beyond. Just a great song. Giant is so good. Yeah, all the way. I mean, you mentioned all the great stuff on here. Pretty much every song on here is really good. And I really like Goodbye Yesterday.
hmm.
So it's like if they're gonna do like a catchy pop rock song,
Yeah.
that's it. But it's like it's got enough heft to it, and there's this great use of the electric and acoustic guitars. I love when they do that because not a lot of stoner bands do that, and they don't do it all the time. They don't overuse it, but I love when you have that kind of like texture of these really gentle acoustic guitar chords with on top of it all the fuzzy riffs. I think that's
Hmm.
really great. Ignition is terrific, man. Just a
Yeah.
great stoner metal track. I mean, this is a really good album produced by the band and John Agnello. So yeah, that's my number one as well. I think for anybody watching, Craig said it perfectly. If you're new to this band, you want to go investigate. This is probably the best place to start, but you
Yeah.
really, you know, you can't go wrong with any of these albums.
Yeah.
And then maybe I would say the last three to investigate would be these, but these are also still really good as well.
Hmm.
So it just depends on what you like. If you like more of the psychedelic space rock stuff, then these are your friends. These will be your friends first. But if you like more of the kind of like the straightforward stoner rock and metal stuff with some psychedelic influence, then these are like no brainers.
And
No.
there's one remedial listening. I'm not sure if you bought this amongst your when you were buying all these. This one's called Dose EPs. This is actually their first two EPs that the band had from '97 and '98, along with three new songs that were recorded at the time. This came out in 2002, I want to say. The three new songs, especially track one called Rocket, track is fantastic. That is just a total ass-kicking rocker. The others, it actually it lists on here that these are what the EP covers look like. This was a split with a band called Lowrider, and this one is called Sun Creature, which actually I have the actual version of this. It says on in the credits here that it was they were remixed, that it was just they were remixed. Some of these were definitely re-recorded because his vocals are not the same when you compare the songs on here to how they're done on here. They add electric piano on a couple songs, which works well. But Pete, you were saying about, you wish they did like a slower, like slow one, like Aphrodite. The song in this called "Smokin' Woman" is one that would be right up your alley. It's a slow one like that, and but with groove, and some of the extra songs from this one from that one there. There's two tracks that are probably in my maybe could be my top five of Nebula: Full Throttle and Fall of Icarus. They are fantastic uh, rockers, especially Full Throttle. It's almost like a surf rock type song, but with Eddie's riffs and his again trademark vocals that work really well within these songs. So yeah, check out
I got
Dosey
to get that
P's
then. Yeah.
if you if you enjoy this other stuff, you'll definitely like this. It's 11 songs on this, and worth it for even if you have the other ones. There's three new songs which are only available on this one.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get that immediately. So that sounds like that'll need that to kind of finish up the collection here. So and I'll probably need to get that live album too. I saw that and I didn't get it. I probably should.
I think they have another one coming out that is on what label are they on now?
Heavy Psych Sounds. So they still
Yeah,
are.
I think they have a new one coming out. It's on the website that
Yes.
might be
Yes.
in the next month or two,
Yep.
but has more songs on it than the one that I showed.
Cool. So there you have it, everybody. Ranking the albums of Nebula. If you are a fan, rank them as you like them down in the comments below. Or if you're someone like Gary Joyce, who's been furiously listening to his Nebula albums all week, let us know how you're going to rank them now that you're a first-time
I'm
person.
curious to see old Gary's ranking because I know he's God, that guy does his homework, and
He does. He
he
takes
was
this
he was
seriously.
on this as soon as you said Nebula, man, that guy he was on it right away to listen to those.
Yeah,
And
it was like Tuesday, and he's like, I'm 4 albums in, 8 spins each. I'm like, man, Gary, you're on it.
man, you're
You're
a
on it.
rock star, man.
Gary, the MVP. That's right. So cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also, down below, get the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, our merch page, and our Cameo page. So thank you in advance for all your support there. And we'll see you here next week once again in the ranking room. Grant Arthur is coming back. We're going to rank. We're going back to Yacht Rockville one more time. We might be doing it again in the future, but we're going to rank the albums of Player, right? A band that was much more than just their massive single Baby Come
Maybe
Back.
come back.
Really, actually, some good rocking albums from this band, and that's
Okay.
that was their big single. But there's a lot more to their catalog than that. So I think it's 5 albums, 4 albums, 5 albums. I forget exactly. And we'll be ranking those 1 week from today. What's coming up on the Ranking the Album show? Let me just give everybody a taste of what to expect in the coming weeks and months here. I'm going to be doing a ranking of the albums of Creator in the not too distant future. We're also, what else do I got here? Stephen Reed and I will be doing Palace as well as The Tangent for all your progressive rock fans. Grant Arthur and I will be doing Badfinger. Steve Keeler and I got to circle back and do that Dark Tranquility ranking. I'm going to be ranking the albums of a very cool instrumental psychedelic stoner band called Tia Carrera for all of you folks who love Earthless. Very similar type stuff. Mike Antonelli's coming back on the channel. We're going to be doing a kind of like top 10 songs from Michael Brecker, the great jazz sax player. And basically what we're doing originally was going to be kind of like our 10 favorite albums with Michael as a sideman, but where it's kind of morphing into favorite solos on songs he has appeared on, and we'll be talking about the albums that come from. So that's still kind of in kind of flux. Scott Lade from the Prog Corner and I will be ranking the catalog of Arabs in Aspic, the great Norwegian prog band, heavy prog band. Nick Franco and I, this is coming up pretty soon. We've been talking about it forever, but we are going to be ranking the albums of Anathema. So that's also coming up. We've got Rich Catino and I will be doing Children of Bodom. I'm going to be doing a Color Haze ranking. There's all sorts of stuff on the to-do list. So just for everybody waiting for specific episodes, thank you for your patience. We'll get to them
Your
all.
dance card is full. Woo!
I'm telling you, man, and there's more. I just announced some of them. There's more. There's a lot for all those folks who constantly like, oh, why are you ranking this band?
You're running out of bands.
Running out of bands. No, we're
Never.
not running out of bands. We're not running out of bands. All the major ones have already been taken, but there's a lot of great other bands that we're going to do. So yeah, so more to come on that as the months go on. So and I want to thank Craig for joining in on this one. This was fun as always, and see Craig and myself next week, as a matter of fact, on the Hudson Valley Squares and the Monsters Den. We got two. So let's give everybody a little bit of taste of what's coming up this week on the Hudson Valley Squares. So we've got probably our last for a little bit album war, and this is classic fifth album. This is album war number 5 that we've been doing lately, and we've got albums. We've got the let's see, let me try it. See if my memory. We've got Rock and Roll Over by Kiss. We've got
Thin Lizzy Fighting.
Thin Lizzy Fighting. We've got Lynyrd Skynyrd,
Street Survivors.
Street Survivors, and what's the last one, Craig? What am I missing out? Oh, drawing a blank. Hold on.
Me too.
I got the olds, man. I got it written down here. Hold on. Blue Oyster Cult. Spectre.
Oh, yeah, Spectre.
Blue Oyster Cult Spectre. So that's coming up on Monday on the Hudson Valley Squares. And then we've got a fun show for you planned on Thursday on the Monsters Den. So Craig himself has decided to take the plunge into 4Kville. Right.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
okay, Craig, I don't know if you want to tell the story, how you were convinced to go get a 4K player.
Well, I've had a Blu-ray player and a 4K television for years, and I just never bought a 4K player or anything. And I didn't even buy Blu-rays that much. The Blu-rays that I bought were for the ranking episodes that we did, like Terminator and Phantasm and so on. But seeing that Conan the Barbarian was finally going to come out on 4K after so many years was my impetus to go out and get a player. So that's what I did, and I have the curse is I don't want to say it's completely not there, but it is sort of real. I mean, I've picked up about 20 4K movies in the last few weeks. So
oh, it's real. It's damn real.
I'm pumping the brakes on it, a little bit. There's some sets that I need to get. I've gotten a lot of just single movies, but there's some sets like Predator, for example, that I need to pick up. So, but yeah, we'll be showing off some of our top 5 picks for features to pick up on 4K for people like me who had not yet taken the plunge, and we'll give plenty of examples of why our particular picks are wise purchases to show on your 4K TV. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a 101 for 4K newbies, right? So we're going to be recommending some 4K sets that are well worth maybe replacing that old DVD or Blu-ray and upgrading. And again, we're going to be going cross genres here, so we're not just going to do horror, fantasy, sci-fi. So we may have some crime dramas, mob movies, old classic films, comedies, whatever. But each of us have picked out 5 different films on 4K to kind of talk about and why you should upgrade or consider the upgrade. So and Craig was the kind of the driving force behind this whole thing, because we were all going back and forth on our little chat on Facebook about this whole concept. And then I was like, after like 2 days, I'm like, wait a second, why don't we just do an episode on this? We're just going back and forth. And it's like, this could kind of be fun. So yeah, for all you 4K newbies, this will be the episode for you, or even those who have just moved over to 4K. Hopefully you'll get some recommendations on some films you want to pick up. So right there you go. Yeah, exactly. So join us on the Monsters Den this week, and all sorts of other stuff happening. So thanks for watching, everybody. For Craig Kaminski, I'm Pete Pardo. We'll see you next week for Player when Grant comes back into the room. And till then, have a good weekend. Bye-bye.